good afternoon. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Chad. Welcome to our event hosted by Global Healthy Living Foundation. Tonight, we're talking about numbers, from blood pressure to blood sugar, why knowing and managing your numbers matters. Now, a brief intro. Health numbers is the topic for tonight. Health numbers are really a measurement of metrics that provide some insight into your overall health and your well-being. Now, these numbers can include some traditional things like blood pressure, maybe cholesterol, blood sugar, things like that. But they can also include other metrics, other numbers, things like nutrition information, data we get from exercise, heart rate, sleep patterns, and so on. Now, health numbers are really crucial because they give us, as healthcare practitioners, as patients, they give us some objective things to monitor for us. However, it's not so great whenever, if you, like me, start obsessing about them or trying to perfect them and stressing about them. Anybody guilty? Just me? Nope. I see all of us. We tend to really get pretty worried about some of these numbers. So we want to talk about that some tonight as well. So the journey to health, better health, whatever that means for you, isn't just about hitting these like specific targets, these landmarks. It's about steady progress. It's about having positive changes in our health. So we're going to embrace that together in a nice, lovely, safe space this evening to talk about some health numbers and how we can take some proactive steps. Easy enough. Now, one quick thing about tonight, as we're gearing up for this live event, we are live. So I'm going to say, I'm sure, at least 15 crazy things. Please, every time I say something crazy, or better yet, every time you have a question, please use the chat function. We have a small army of people who are monitoring the chat and the Q&A function. So if you have questions about anything I say or any of our expert panelists say, go ahead and drop that question into the chat and let us know, and then we'll do our best to answer those in real time. To practice that, we are literally from all over the world. Here we've got Texas, we've got Washington, we've got Hawaii. To practice that, you can put into the chat or into the Q&A where you're from, just to make sure that yours is working. And I'm excited to see where all of you are from. So it's a two-way street. The more that you ask us, the better off we are. So hopefully that works out. All right. So let's jump right in. That's pretty much what the evening is going to look like. And to jump right in, mercifully, you don't have to listen to me. You'll hear more from me later. But I want to start us off with some really amazing information from Emily. Emily is a pharmacist based in Chicago, and she works with Walgreens. So this next segment is going to be specifically from her, from the pharmaceutical level.
Thank you, Dr. Chad. Hello, I'm Emily Shafer, a pharmacist with over 16 years of experience. Currently, I work at the Walgreens support office in Deerfield, Illinois. I'm all about providing comprehensive pharmaceutical care and empowering patients like you to make informed decisions about your health. Today, I want to chat with you about the importance of knowing your health numbers and how your friendly neighborhood pharmacist can be a key part of your care team. But before we dive in, let me share a little bit about why I became a pharmacist. Helping patients and their loved ones understand their diseases, conditions, and medications is such a passion for me. No matter one's age, education, or background, my goal is to meet them where they are in order to explain how medicine works in and on their body, and address questions and concerns so we can ultimately empower them to get and stay as healthy as possible. I'm here for patients just like you, those dealing with inflammatory arthritis or rheumatic disease, while also managing or at risk for co-conditions like diabetes, heart disease, or high blood pressure. One way I can lend a helping hand is by talking today about the significance of knowing your health numbers. These include your blood glucose levels and your A1C, which measures average blood glucose levels over the past 2 to 3 months, your blood pressure, which tells us about the force of blood pumping through your arteries with each heartbeat, your cholesterol levels, that waxy substance produced by the liver or found in animal-based foods, and your body mass index, or BMI, which is a calculation based on your height and weight. However, it's worth noting that BMI is considered a bit outdated. Instead, let's focus on maintaining a healthy weight that you and your healthcare provider determine together. Now let's get to it. Why is knowing your health numbers so important? Knowing your health numbers allows you to assess your overall health and take proactive steps to prevent and manage certain conditions. Let's take rheumatoid arthritis as an example. When you have rheumatoid arthritis, your immune system mistakenly identifies healthy tissue around your joints as an invader and starts a wild attack. That attack causes inflammation, along with the pain, swelling, and warmth that accompany it. Unfortunately, the inflammation may not limit itself to just your joints. It can spread throughout your entire body and harm other tissues, including those in your heart, lungs, and eyes. Research also shows that inflammatory arthritis is associated with a higher risk of both type 1 and type 2 diabetes. In fact, nearly half of adults who have diabetes also have arthritis, according to research in the journal Diabetes Care. These connections emphasize the importance of regularly monitoring your health numbers to catch any potential issues early on, and your pharmacist can help. As a pharmacist, I'm an integral part of your care team. I provide valuable guidance and support to help you understand and manage your health numbers effectively. Whether it's keeping an eye on your blood pressure, cholesterol levels, blood sugar levels, or any other health numbers, I'm here to cheer you on achieving your health goals. Oh, and did you know you can just walk into any local Walgreens and ask me questions like, are there any medications or supplements that may affect my health numbers? Absolutely. I'll gladly review your medications and supplements to identify any potential impacts on your health numbers and provide guidance on interactions or side effects. Or if you're looking for additional guidance on what your numbers mean, the pharmacist is happy to review your blood pressure or glucose logs. For example, when you self monitor your blood glucose, you may have questions about your numbers, and we can talk about what your normal ranges are based on what you've eaten, when you ate it, and your activity levels. The pharmacist can help you understand the right range for you. But hey, if you prefer the comfort of your own home, we've got you covered too. Our pharmacy chat service allows you to use the Walgreens app or website to chat live with the pharmacist about your general health questions. Here's the bottom line. Knowing your health numbers is vital for your overall well-being. Take the leap today and work with your healthcare team, including your pharmacist, to understand and manage your health numbers. Together, we can embark on a journey toward a healthier lifestyle.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that. Of everything that I just heard, the most satisfying is that BMI is not important anymore. That number is rude. I'm just going to say it's rude. So I'm so glad to hear that. And also really some other very good stuff about how approachable pharmacists are, right? She's a great example of a non-scary pharmacist. So that was beautifully said and really an important resource. So thank you so much for that. And next, we want to talk about how Emily just kind of went through some great ideas about how medications and pharmacy can really help us out, but how do we also help our health, help our numbers, improve our numbers through the nutrition that we're getting, through basically the substances that we are ingesting and fueling our body with. And so very excited that I get to introduce Ginger, and I'm going to say her name right, Ginger Hultin. Ginger Hultin is an incredibly accomplished nutritionist and has some really, really great stuff to share with you. So Ginger, take it away.
Hi there, everyone. I am really excited to talk about nutrition with you. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I specialize in people that have chronic diseases, whether that's cancer, autoimmune, inflammatory diseases, and I help my folks with a personalized approach. And I also have my friend Shelly here, who's going to be helping us out today and talking a little bit about nutrition as well. And I'll have her tell you all about herself and her role she'll play today.
Hi, my name is Shelly Fritz, and I'm a patient education fellow with Global Healthy Living Foundation. And I'm really excited about this presentation today because I've been working very hard on keeping my nutrition intact. So I'm hoping to learn some from Ginger, but I'm also here to share a little bit about what I've been doing to increase my fiber intake and just learn some new tricks from Ginger.
Great. And I have a little bit of interaction. So everybody get your thumbs ready because we're going to play some nutrition games as well. And we're going to do some polls so I can test your nutrition knowledge. And a lot of people think that dietitians are the food police. And I love also what I was hearing about BMI and how it's not quite right for every person. So I really like to take an approach of all foods fit and what can we add in and how can we have more fun with nutrition. So that being said, I'd love to jump right in. Are you ready, Shelly? Are you ready, everybody?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. How much fiber should you have in a day? Is it 12 to 15, 22, 25 to 30, or 50? What do you think, Shelly? What are you going to choose?
Those ranges are really close together. So I'm going with 25 to 30 grams a day. I want to know what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, let's see them come in. And I will say that nutrition is so complex, and it also, the research is constantly coming out and we're learning more and more. So there's some caveats to all of these polls. Of course, there has to be. It's nutrition. Ooh, you guys got it right. I like that. That is correct. Nice job,
Awesome.
Shelly. Yeah, 25 to 30 grams. But I will say that this is kind of a situation where more is good. 50 is probably quite a bit high. You definitely want to work your way up there. I think that's going to be a lot for most folks. But I'd like to talk a little bit more about fiber. So maybe we can go to the next slide. And I know that Shelly also has some high fiber foods that she wants to show us as well. So for fiber, the American Heart Association says we should have about 25 to 30 grams a day from food and really focus on food, not supplements. And of course, everybody's body is a little bit different, but fiber is really good for your gut microbiome, which is a good bacteria in your gut. It also is helpful for your heart health and helps you manage cholesterol. And higher intakes are associated with lots of different benefits. And I'm a cancer specialist, so I really like the connection between more fiber and better outcomes with cancer, and maybe even less prevalence of cancer. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes like lentils, and nuts and seeds. Shelly, what have you got for us?
Okay, so I'm actually, and I want your opinion too. Tell me if these are really great high fiber foods. So I eat a ton of asparagus. I love asparagus. So I have some that I'm cooking tonight with some salmon. And
Beautiful.
It's a little blurry there, sorry. And I have some green beans. And I do love Brussels sprouts, but I ate my last ones recently, so I don't have any more of those. But my question for you, Ginger, is I don't have any like dry beans, but I have a can of chickpeas. So those are high fiber. Is it okay if they're canned?
I love that you asked that question. It's one of my top favorite questions. So let me back up and tell you that all those veggies are excellent. You made great choices. All different veggies are wonderful for us. They're all high in fiber. None are off limits. Bring them on. So excellent work putting your veggies in. Most of us should be eating more. And beans. Personally, I'm a canned bean person. I know some people love to, put them in the pressure cooker, soak them, all of that. I really have this quite a busy lifestyle, like I know a lot of you do. So I like to open a can, rinse them off because that helps get a little rid of the sodium. We're going to talk about that next. And then you have a simple, easy, ready to go, high fiber, high protein, plant-based source. So it's a huge win. Use those canned beans.
Great. I love hummus.
Me too. Let's go to the next poll because I want to talk about sodium since you already brought it up in a wonderful way. So tell me, folks, how much sodium should you limit to per day? As little as possible, 1,000 milligrams or less than 1,200 or less than 2,300. Shelly, what are you thinking?
Well, I think that the answer is less than 2,300, but I really feel like for me, I feel like it should be a lot less than that because I notice that I don't feel as well when I have too much sodium.
Ooh, I like that you're tuning in and listening to your body and seeing how you respond to what you're eating. That's a really key piece that I think we don't talk about enough. That can also be called mindful eating or intuitive eating, or just having a good relationship with your body and understanding what it's telling you. So the answer is, look at this.
Oh,
you
as
guys,
little as
I'm
possible.
so intrigued.
Yeah.
This is one of those really interesting situations, kind of like saturated fats, where people hear it's not good for you, it's not good for heart health. And so they say, I'm not going to eat any. But did you know that you actually have to have sodium to live? You cannot live with as little as possible. I know this sounds so funny coming from a dietitian, a nutritionist like me, but I actually tell a lot of people that they need to stop restricting sodium too much and start eating more, especially my folks that are sweating a lot, my athletes, my people living in hot climates. You cannot restrict sodium too much. It's not good for you. So this is a situation where actually the number is less than 2,300 milligrams. And that was a little bit of a trick because, and I will go to the next slide there to talk about how that's another American Heart Association recommendation, but they do say, and like the DASH diet, dietary approaches to stop hypertension, they'll say often like 1,500 could be a good guideline for people that do have high blood pressure or need to limit more. So Shelly, that might be a better number for you. But I tricked you in the poll and I didn't say 1,500, I said 1,200, and that might be getting a little bit to the low side. So really what I hear from people when I start to educate, if someone does need to cut down on salt, I talk about hidden salt sources. We're talking packaged foods, soups, broth, bread, pizza, which is one of my favorites, but it is high in sodium, seasoning blends, it sneaks in. And this is what my clients say. They say, I don't even use the salt shaker, so I'm fine. But actually, fun fact, only about 5% or less of what we eat comes from the salt shaker. So most of the added sodium when you're getting too much comes from processed foods. And that's a great case to be doing like you're doing, eating more fruits and veggies and beans. And if you're gonna eat beans, just rinse them off to get rid of some of the excess sodium. But don't limit it to zero. It can't be zero. We need a little bit. It's an important nutrient for our health, actually. So that was a good poll. Awesome. Should we move on to the next one? And then we're going to play a game after that too.
Sure. This is my favorite part, sugar.
Okay, let's talk about sugar. And I just want to give you a little hint. We're talking about added sugar. How much should you limit to per day? This is a little tricky too. I tried to get real tricky with you guys. What are you thinking? Is it none? Is it the high fructose corn syrup? Is it the cane sugar? Is it the fruit? I mean, you live in Hawaii. You've got that tropical fruit. What are you thinking?
I do. And I'm always wondering, when I'm eating these fruits, I love papaya, I love pineapple. I mean, I know that it has sugar. And so I'm just kind of wondering, should I just be limiting that or give it up altogether? I just really can't give it up. So I don't think it's none if possible. I'm going to say less than 6% total calories a day from products that come from the cane sugar, but I don't know.
Love it. Love it. Let's see the poll. What did we learn? So interesting.
They agree with me.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is people are saying mostly we're trying to limit that cane sugar and high fructose corn syrup. Some people are saying none. We're all over the board here. But what I like is most folks are understanding that we actually don't need to limit fruit. We need to keep fruit in. Fruit is really important. There are not limits on fruit. But the thing is, we should really be eating more veggies than fruit. So it's not like limit fruit. It's like eat more veggies and keep your fruit in also. So we're not going to limit fruit. And actually the recommendation, again, it's not none. I think less is good. Probably most of us could probably work on cutting down on added sugars, but this is very interesting because honey, maple syrup, like those natural sugars actually count as added sugars. So the correct answer is the less than 6 from cane sugar, corn syrup, honey, maple syrup, molasses, and agave. So let's talk about that a little bit because I know this can be really confusing and some people are a little bit angry at me right now, but we're going to talk through it. Added sugars specifically are those sweeteners that bring your blood sugar up. And I know that we were talking earlier with the pharmacist about how to make sure that you manage your blood sugars and check them. So limiting added sugar can be really helpful. The American Heart Association says limit added sugars to no more than 6% of your daily calories. Depending on how your brain works, that could be 7 teaspoons or less, 28 grams or less. So again, less is good, but the recommendations aren't zero. So I'm really glad we talked about that. And we have freedom of fruit.
Freedom of fruit. I love it.
I know we have to wrap up in a minute, but I don't want to let you go until we talk a little bit about the nutrition label, because I get a lot of questions about nutrition labels. So there were some changes in the past couple of years. Let me give you a high level overview, and there's a picture here for you. On top, you should look at how many servings are in a container, right? And so this is always going to be, the numbers are what's in one serving. Does that mean you have to just have one serving? No, you can have as many servings as you want. You should just know what's in a serving. So that's also very important to know. So on top, you're going to know how many calories in a serving, and how many calories in a serving depends on how many calories you need and how many calories you need in a whole day, which is why you should know your registered dietitian. And if your doctor hasn't given you one yet, ask for one for sure, so you can learn more about nutrition. And then we've also got this little snippet. We've got fat, total fat, saturated fat. We've got cholesterol. There's your sodium on there. We've got carbohydrates, and under carbohydrates is fiber and added sugar. That was actually a new change. And then underneath that, at the very bottom, we have protein, followed by some different vitamins and minerals. And then at the bottom is where they're going to list all the different ingredients. So let's pop to the next slide, and I want to show you that. The ingredient list lives down below. Fun fact, if the majority of the ingredient is listed first, so it's the most of what's in there is first, and then at the very end is what's in there the least. You're also going to see allergens, so like there's soy in here, there's milk in here, there's peanuts in here, so that will be listed. And yeah, it should always be on there, and then you can kind of look and see. Is a shorter ingredient label better, do you think, Shelley?
I mean, no, but I guess my thought is the fewer ingredients, the purer the product is. Maybe there's less processed parts in there.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. But the other day I was looking at a soup can, and it was a really great soup with all these fruit, like not fruits, mostly veggies, and herbs and spices. And the ingredient list was really, really long, but it was all good stuff. So I would say that it doesn't always tell you by the length. You have to know what you're looking for in the ingredient label. So read the words and see what you think of them.
Okay, that makes sense.
For sure. I've got one more activity for Shelley mostly, but I'd love it if other people can type in what they think.
Yes, please.
Couple questions. We're going to quiz you guys, and then we're going to wrap up. This is a label again. How are we going to figure out the percent daily value of sodium? So we know that there's 2,300 milligrams of sodium that is what is the limit. How do we figure out what the percentage is here?
I believe that you would divide the amount shown. I don't have my glasses on. Let me look.
You're exactly right.
But you would divide, and then that would give you the decimal, and then you would multiply by 100 to get the percent.
You're so right. Hey. Is anyone a math whiz? Is this a high or low sodium product, do you think?
It's probably about 60 something percent.
Yeah,
so it's a high sodium
it's pretty
product.
High. Yeah, in just one serving. So that's just a really great way to understand, wow, this gives me a lot. What category goes below total sugar? So we've got total carbs, fiber, total sugars. What comes next? Do you remember?
Sugars from, I don't remember. I need help in the chat.
Chat us, everybody.
Help
me. I'm really putting Shelley on the spot. That's actually the added sugars. So that's that sugar and syrup. Oh, I see people writing in. Good job. And then finally, we're just going to be grilling Shelley. Final question. What information should you see under this facts panel? What comes underneath it next?
Ingredients.
The ingredients label. And then how do you know what the majority of the product is?
The ones that are listed first are the ones that are in the product the most.
Shelley, you get an A+ on your nutrition quiz today. Thanks for sticking with me, everybody. And make sure that you're working with your registered dietitian. It's an important part of your medical team for your numbers.
Thanks, Ginger.
Fade to Dr. Chad eating salty potato chips and saying, Ginger said I could. Ginger, thank you. And Shelley, thank you. That was amazing. So everybody, nice and quick, you have access to Ginger right now. I have at least 1,000 questions for her. So if you have questions, put them in the chat and she's checking that out. I'm going to see Ginger in like 2 weeks and we're going to go get a cup of coffee. And my question for her then is, how much coffee do I get to have? And she better answer it right. All right, next. Oh, it's me. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm a physical therapist. I'm based in New York City. I've been a physical therapist for 14 years, treating orthopedic and sports injuries, pelvic health, and I'm also an academician. I get to teach the new physical therapists of the world, and again, also based in New York City. So as we're on this theme of numbers, health numbers, being a physical therapist, I'm really excited to introduce this topic of numbers related to movement, related to exercise. And so enough nonsense for me. We have a bit of a segment that I recorded with perhaps a familiar face, a good friend, Zoe. And so we'd like to show that to you now. And as we're going through, if you have questions, pop them there in the chat. Thanks much.
Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Chad. We are here in New York City in Central Park, and we have an exercise segment for you. Before we get into the very exciting action of this segment, this is Zoe. Zoe, you want to introduce yourself to the people at home?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Zoe Rothblatt, Associate Director of Community Outreach with GHLF. It's great to be here with you, Dr. Chad. I live with Crohn's disease and spondyloarthritis, so personally, I'm really interested in exercise and knowing your numbers because it's so important for joint health and gut health to stay active. So Dr. Chad will be teaching me a few exercises to help with that, and just checking my heart rate now. Let's see what my watch is saying. Okay, 89 beats per minute. So.
Adjusted for excitement. Yeah, so we'll be checking in with heart rate, and in this segment, within the theme of the conversation tonight is also a discussion of just knowing your numbers. So we're going to be using heart rate as one of the numbers, and then we're also going to keep track of sets and reps just to have a little bit of an objective number. So an exercise that I wanted to take Zoe through, and then you can join along or you can watch and then just do this later in your own program, is some version of a lower extremity strengthening exercise. Lots and lots of benefits for strengthening, but kind of a classic standard for strengthening for the lower extremities or for the legs is going to be a squat. Now, don't panic yet, because anytime I hear squats, people say like, I can't do squats, it hurts my knees. So I'm going to show you some versions of how to make this a bit easier and also how to make it a bit harder. And as we make things harder and harder, we're going to check in with Zoe about how she's feeling, what her heart rate is, and then we might put her on ice later.
That sounds great.
Yeah, good,
yeah,
right?
I always appreciate a variation
Cool.
and ease into it to warm up the joints.
Yeah.
That sounds really good.
So the first version that I would recommend if somebody's just getting started is, let's not even call it a squat, we'll call it a sit to stand. So we don't have a chair here in Central Park, but if we did, I would have Zoe sit in a chair and then stand back up. Now we're gonna pretend there's a chair because this is actually gonna be the next version. So we started at 89 beats per minute. We'll just check in on that a little bit. So the first version, the easiest version of the exercise is, I'll do it with you, Zoe, if we just pretended there was a chair and we were sitting in the chair and we were thinking deep thoughts, and then we were to stand up, and then we were to sit back down again. And then you can pause here while sitting in your chair as long as you want. You stand again and then back down. So that's the easiest version. The nice thing about this version is it feels very safe, right? There's no big balance challenge, and you can take little breaks in between. And if you're just getting started, maybe you do 5 of them, you're good, and you feel like I did something. If that's a little easy, then you can progress that up. So the next one is just like that, kind of basically what we just did, just no imaginary chair. So Zoe and I, and whenever I say I mean Zoe, is going to do just regular squats now. So go ahead and just stand comfortable, shoulder width apart with your legs. I don't care if your toes are pointed a little bit out or a little bit in. Stand where you feel most natural and comfortable. Perfect.
This feels good, yeah.
That looks great. And now Zoe is going to reach back with her hips as if the chair is still there and go as low as she feels she can, and then right back up again. And then let's keep going up and down, Zoe. Yep. So this is, you're gonna keep going, yep. This is gonna be the next progression, because you see now Zoe, poor Zoe, is not getting that break in between. She's just continuing to go along. Now that doesn't mean she has to do 100 of these in a row. It means she does as many as she feels that she comfortably can. If you happen to have a heart rate monitor as you're doing this, you're gonna check it right at the end of a set of 10 reps to maybe 15 reps. Now I am not counting at all. So I'm gonna say Zoe has done 7 or 8 of them. Let's do a couple of more.
Okay.
And her form is perfect. She's really scooching her hips backwards. The weight is in the heels of her feet, not in her toes. One more, Zoe. Lovely, little breath break, and let's just check that heart rate just for giggles.
90 beats per minute.
Cool, so we're up to 90. So we're gonna have a little break on that, and then we're gonna do another set and we'll check back in. How do you feel?
Good. It's nice to have your voice and instruction while I do it to, you know, just take it slow and not try to rush through it and really feel the movement in the exercise.
Yeah. So have a little Chad voice, a little Dr. Chad voice on your shoulder. It's stuck in my head. It annoys me, but I'm glad it's helping you. So let's do another 10 or 12 of them. So
Okay.
if you can, Zoe, a little bit deeper, if that feels good for you. Yep, good. Good. So she's doing great. If we're getting knee pain, especially right under or behind the kneecaps, make sure that the weight isn't going too far into your toes. So try to keep the weight back into your heels a bit and see if that helps with a little bit of the knee discomfort. Let's do one more because I'm not counting. Thank you. And let's check that heart rate again. As she's checking her heart rate, think about the weight being in the heels of your feet instead of the toes. And in addition to that, if your knees...
114.
Woo!
Rising.
114. Okay, we're going to do one more set like that. If we are feeling still that knee discomfort, then just don't go as deep into your squat. So maybe,
like here.
Yeah, maybe that means a tiny squat. And find a range where your knees are feeling a little more comfortable.
That's good to know for pain days and just to add movement in every day. It doesn't have to be such a drastic movement. It could be like just a little bit like this.
Yeah, so I'll talk through that actually as we're doing a third and final set of this version. All right, so let's do 10 or 15 more and we'll check on that heart rate one more time and then I'll show a progression after this. So go ahead, Zoe. So as Zoe was saying, if you're having a day where things don't feel as good, your energy is lower, things are a little more achy, then maybe that means you do a slightly modified version of this or a slightly easier version. It's better to do an easier version and have some consistency instead of think, I must do the hardest version and it must be perfect every single time. Not really a thing. Zoe just happens to be perfect every single time right now. God bless. How many was that, Zoe?
I have been counting. That's 10.
Oh, wow. Look at that. We probably did many more. Yeah.
It takes 3 sets to learn how to count.
And let's check your heart rate one more time.
115.
115. We're going to talk more about heart rate as the evening continues on, but 115 is a really nice number. And then how do you feel as far as like if 10 out of 10 is the hardest work ever and 0 out of 10 is taking a nap? How do you feel that you got?
I would say I'm somewhere in the middle. I feel really good. I feel like I can keep going. It was like a nice, get the joints movement and flowing. But I definitely wasn't napping. Of course, I do feel it in my body, but it's a movement that encourages me to do more movement.
Amazing. Yeah, so we call that rate of perceived exertion. So we said she's about in the middle. She's about a 5 out of 10, and that's usually a nice place to be. One more version to make this a little bit harder, and this is going to challenge our balance a little bit, so I'm going to stay close to pretend to be a wall if you need me. What this one is going to be, Zoe, is a squat just like we did, but then you're going to come up and try to balance, and you're going to go side to side. Now this one's going to be quite a bit harder for your heart rate and for that rate of perceived exertion. So we'll try 10 to 12 of them again, a nice little balance and a pause. Stop if you need to.
Okay.
Let's do it. Yeah, so a nice squat.
It's okay if you forget what you're doing for a second.
So come on down for a squat just like you were doing. Pretend that chair is there, up and then pick a leg. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. And back down for a squat. Alternate side. You got it. Excellent. Now, this is a balance challenge as well. Keep going, Zoe. You're crushing it. It's a balance challenge as well. So if balance is an issue or a safety concern, don't do this version. Or do it in a place where you're near a wall or maybe a chair, so that way in case you do lose your balance, you can catch yourself, right? But this, as we're going, Zoe will tell you, oh, this is a little harder.
Starting to feel the burn.
Welcome to the burn, not just because it's a summer day in the park.
Which is almost satisfying because you feel like you're really doing something with your body, right?
Yeah. Any idea what number we're on right now, Zoe?
Let's see. 123.
123. We're going to take a short little break for Zoe, and then we're going to do one more set, and we're going to see what happens. Now, as we're doing any of this, if you have questions that are coming up about your own exercises, about what Zoe is doing, about something I said, just pop those right into the chat, and then we'll spend some time making sure that we do our best to get those questions answered for you. But we've had enough of a break. It's time for one more set here with Zoe. So Zoe, let's do that same version again, the squat with the knee lift again. Yep. So we're gonna go for 10 to 12, and Zoe's gonna challenge herself to go as deep as she can into the squat, and then as tall as she can with that balance.
It definitely helps to throw on a smile while you do it.
Yeah, this is perfect. She's feeling all right. And she's gonna stop anytime she needs to stop. There's no prize for pushing yourself into fatigue or pushing a little bit further than you are comfortable doing so.
I think I'll do one more.
One more
sounds
good. And
that
let's check
feels
that heart rate
good.
again. Yeah, last time.
123.
123. So we're kind of in that really nice, like mid to approaching mid to upper range of a comfortable heart rate. Fist bump on that. Awesome.
Awesome.
Job.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Dr.
Cool.
Chad.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you're welcome.
everyone.
You're welcome.
How much do you love Zoe? Come on. That was so great. We love Zoe. Everybody clap for Zoe at home. And I hope some of you did some version of sit to stand or some squats just to give it a go. I do have some questions in the chat that I'm going to answer as soon as possible. And thank you for clapping there, whoever just did that. Way to go, Zoe. So I will get to those questions. Thank you for using the chat to ask your questions or the Q&A function. There they come. There they come. Good. So beautiful, beautiful job. Next, hopefully that was nice and helpful. Next, we have Dr. Chaoul, and way more fun to say Dr. Ale, not Dr. Ale, we have learned. Dr. Ale is in Texas, and I mean, you can tell his face just popped on your screen, and look at this guy. Like, what a guy. I'll let him introduce himself, but he just radiates positivity and happiness and love. And you know what? There's a reason why. So Dr. Ale is going to talk to us about why he looks so happy and how you too can look that happy. Dr. Ale, all yours.
Thank you, Chad. So my work is in the area of mind, body, and actually of mind, body, spirit, because I find that really when we have that mind, body connection, what happens is we connect to something that brings meaning into our life, that aspect of spirit, and not meaning just religious. It could be religious, non-religious. It could be through exercise, through nutrition, through music, through love, whatever it is for you. I have worked over 20 years in integrative medicine at MD Anderson, which is a cancer center here in Houston, and also at UT Medical School, really bringing these practices for people with cancer and their caregivers and other patient populations, as well as lately for staff and faculty that also feel stress, and some even more during COVID. So I created the Mind, Body, Spirit Institute, and particularly a program that I love that I call CPR. And this CPR is not cardiopulmonary resuscitation, but it's actually compassionate professional renewal. How can we renew that mission, that purpose that brought us to help others, compassion? Because many times when we're stressed, when we're burnout, it gets squeezed out of ourselves. So I'll talk about that. But today, I also have a friend, Angel, who actually got me together with this group. So Angel, welcome and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angel Tapia. I'm Senior Manager of Hispanic Outreach at Global Healthy Living Foundation. And I'm excited to be here and to see you, Dr. Ale, once again. I am also in Houston, so we're neighbors. And I really am happy to be part of this segment. I personally practice mindfulness as a way to de-stress, to center my thoughts, and to connect spiritually as well. So I jumped at the opportunity to see everyone and really to be a part of this and learn more from you, Dr. Ale.
Thank you, Angel. Great to have you here. And what I want to talk today, there's two things. One is, as Angel is saying, the aspect of mindfulness or calming, and this aspect that has been researched actually already 40 some years ago by Dr. Herbert Benson at Harvard, that realized that when we are in stress, which as we know, it's the fight, flight, or freeze response, we can actually, we get internally, the sympathetic system gets aroused. And what happens is we feel kind of in this fight or flight response, right? So what he found is through deep breathing and through meditation, you can rebalance that with the parasympathetic system. And with that, you get into a sense of homeostasis, of relaxation. And this is really useful. However, in my 30 years of study in the Tibetan tradition, I noticed that just calm is not enough. Sometimes, particularly when we're too agitated, when we calm down so much that we go almost into the famous mantra of, so that went too much. So sometimes it's useful to have a nice nap, but actually, if we want to be calm and connected, this is what we want to do. So this image that you have there, actually, thanks to my friend Sydney for putting it together. It's the sense of connecting from the heart. A lot of times we spend too much time in this address of the mind, the brain. And when we do that, we behave a little bit like a monkey, going from thought to thought, emotion to emotion, this reactivity of fight or flight response. The amygdala gets in that reptilian response of reactivity. And if we are able to unlatch from that and come down into the body, and particularly into the heart, we can connect. And I don't know how, the age of our audience, so I'm going to age myself by this. You may remember when internet was not just put a password and you get connected, but actually you had to dial. And there was this dial tone of something like dee 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 dee, and then there was D. Now, when you had that D, you were connected not just in your computer, but to the World Wide Web. This is like meditation. When we're doing the practices, it's a little bit like dee 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 dee, but when you connect, there's this great connection. And that's what that means, that great connection from the heart. And from the heart, in this Tibetan tradition, we say the heart is like a crystal. And can we connect to that crystallinity? Because we usually clutter it. Even maybe you do this, and I used to do it. When I showered in the morning, I would start thinking of all the activities of the day, right? My 7 o'clock meeting, my 8 o'clock meeting, my 9 o'clock meeting. And actually, a good friend said, why are you bringing all these people to the shower, right? And also, why are you cluttering yourself? If you shower outside, shower inside. And then you become like a crystal. And then as you bring awareness, light and the crystal, then you can bring rainbows into your day. So that's important. So next slide. So when we do that, what's important is how do we do it? It's not that we just open our heart like that, but we need to train. And as Joan Halifax would say, we need to have a strong back and a soft front, meaning that when we relate to others, sometimes we relate so much, we are over empathetic. She calls it pathological empathy. But rather, we need to train ourselves and be centered. That's the strong back. And then, yes, have a soft front and connect. Next slide, please. And then from there is protect that inner flame. We talk a lot about burnout, particularly during COVID, and really it's easy to feel burnout. But the good news is that you can get relit. So it's important to refuel ourselves, but then also find ways of protecting. How do I protect my inner flame? Next. And so what we want to do is one way, what we find is that by doing things together, that is a sense of support and it sustains our connection. It maintains our inner flame. And today, we're actually going to practice together as well. Next. And so one of the images that I really like is the lotus flower. And you know where the lotus flower kind of grows from? Angel? Mud, right? It grows from mud. And so that means that even in a muddy circumstance, we can flourish. But also what's important next is, as Master Thich Nhat Hanh would tell us, no mud, no lotus. So we need a little bit of mud in order to flourish. But my real interest is in the next slide. And this is that we're all in this together and we can all flourish. So even though we share some of the mud, we can be lotuses. So let's get into the practice. So part of the practice that I want to share with you today is not only breathing, but a little movement. So I'll include a movement that actually has not only a regular breath of in and out, but we're going to hold the breath a little bit. Now, for those who have high blood pressure that is unregulated, that you don't have any ways, from medicine or other ways that you're not regulated, you have to be very careful on how you hold. Now, talking about numbers, this may raise your numbers. And what we want in general is heart rate variability. So with exercises, with calming, what we have is a range of numbers in our heart rate variability. Now, I want to say one more thing of what I want to do today in this exercise that hopefully you'll join me too. And I know Angel will, is what we do is as we open our heart, many times it seems that particularly if we were in some difficult situation or grief or loss, there's a sense of what the Tibetans would say, I'm losing part of my soul. And so we need to retrieve it. And how do we retrieve it? With the power of 5. So this number 5 relates to the 5 elements. And in the Tibetan tradition, we have this, which is a way of bringing them in. And just to explain briefly, red, of course, is fire, and yellow is earth, and white is space, and green is air. And these are these 5 silks as well. So this movement will be like this. As we bring a hand to our heart, we inhale and hold. And just notice our attention in the heart. We re-inhale. And as we keep the holding, we're going to stretch our right arm and do this movement, very Texan. We call it the lasso. And as we do this, we're going to do it up to 5 times. And then we do the same with the other. And then we're going to open the heart by moving the whole chest and shoulder blade. And the same with the left. And then there's a sense of release. As we exhale through the nose, there's a sense of release through the heart itself. Now, in order to make it easier for people, when we do this, we can start by doing it 3 times, and then we'll do it 4, and then we'll do it 5, and then we'll just relax. Or maybe, do we have enough time to do it 3 times? Yes. If we do, that'll be best. Otherwise, we can do it less times. I don't see anything different, so let's do it. So, Angel, let's do it together. Let's have a hand in our heart and just check in. How am I feeling? And there's no kind of response to that in terms of, oh, this or that, or it's just a check-in. No judgment, no criticism, no stories. But if there is something, let it breathe. Let it be there, even if it's a difficult feeling. And now we'll do the movement. So we breathe into our heart. Hold, not too tight. Re-inhale. Let that breath expand as you do the movement of the lasso 3 times with the right and 3 times with the left. And then move your chest 3 times the right, 3 times the left. Exhale and let go. Notice how you feel as we do it again. And see if we could do it 4 times. And just notice, even with this 2 times, how you feel. I know we don't have time for another one, but if you do later, you can do one with 5. And maybe if you were like Zoe, having, checking your numbers before and after, you could see that by holding the breath, that helps. How are you feeling, Angel?
Very grounded, very relaxed. It was a very busy day and I had a lot of thoughts rushing. So I think just my hand on my heart felt centering and the deep breath was relaxing. And I had never done the lasso move, but it also made me feel present because I was staying calm and connected, yet still telling my body to do this movement. So I was observing, which is always a good feeling. I wasn't overthinking. I was just following through with something simple, which is nice after a busy day.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. And one of the things I like to do is that with movement, it's easier to then calm down. So if I would have more time, I would have guided you in a longer, deep breath after the movement so we can really feel grounded and almost reap all the benefits of the practice. So I know we are running out of time, so thank you very much, everyone. I do have a few more slides, but just to let you know a couple of things. One is laugh. Laughter is also very useful, even if you fake it till you make it, as the laughter yoga tells us. And also that we do have many free meditations online, as well as in terms of the movements. My last two books are on Tibetan yoga, so you're welcome to look at those and the courses on that. So thank you, Angel, for joining me. And hi, Dr. Chad again.
Hello. Yeah, I disappeared for a while because I wanted to lasso in private. Dr. Ale, so you briefly mentioned, so we've got the lasso and laughter and mindfulness, and it's all brilliant. You briefly talked about it. Can you just remind us how these practices will change numbers, health numbers? Are we looking for changes in blood work or in blood pressure? Where do you see the biggest impacts?
So we see it in a number of ways. In blood pressure, for sure. So actually, you can even, when you go to the doctor, they measure the blood pressure, tell them, come back in 5 minutes, do just a 5 minutes deep breathing and see the numbers again. You can see it also how that affects in your everyday life as well. Movement also, as I mentioned earlier, heart rate variability. So it's not just the numbers going up, but also calming down and having that range. The bigger the range, the healthier one is. That's at least one way of thinking of heart rate variability. There's another part, and I've done meditations with something that it's called the Muse, which is an EEG, portable EEG. And what we've seen in meditations is that you can actually get better brain function. We did some research with people after chemotherapy that had what they call chemo brain, and we were able to improve the short-term memory and speed cognitive function. And there's other processes of the brain, particularly, I was talking about laughter, but also about happiness. The left frontal lobe kind of ignites more, and what it's taught by people like Richie Davidson at the University of Wisconsin and others is that is the effective part of the brain. And one of the researchers, or they're actually research subjects, but a great meditator, Mathieu Ricard, after doing this kind of research, he was called the happiest man on earth.
Well, I will compete for that role. Thank you very much. Thanks for clarifying that, Dr. Ale. And we had one more thing that whenever we registered for this, we asked people to write down a word that they thought of whenever they heard health numbers. And so we have compiled all of those into what's called a word cloud. And a word cloud is basically the more often a response was posted, the bigger that's going to show up on the word cloud. And so just briefly, we wanted to share that with you, so that way we could all just have a common ground. And there's the word cloud you can see on your screen now. And you see health is a big number. BP is blood pressure, BMI, body mass index. And then we see cholesterol, we see good. We see all kinds of things here of knowledge, important, anxiety, weight. And so it's amazing to see some of these words might be the words that you put in here. Over on the left side is AC, which is blood sugar, A1C. Ginger, as you see these, what are your just kind of closing thoughts on how people felt about their health numbers?
I think that with more support and happiness and excitement and education and empowerment, that these words might start to shift. Like, seeing anxiety makes me feel anxious too. Like, I want people to feel empowered and hopeful rather than anxious. And I'd like to keep seeing that shift in our culture by doing collaborations like this, where we look at everything holistically and we feel good and like we can do something about our numbers because we know what they are. And that's what we started to talk about today.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautifully said. I agree. These numbers can make us all feel, even healthcare providers, we can feel anxious about them and want to perfect them. So I love that these responses came up. Dr. Ale, what are your thoughts whenever you see these responses?
Yeah, well, I like that word health is the biggest one. I agree with Ginger that I think this aspect of thinking holistically is really important. A lot of the research is done just what's, one aspect. How can we measure just nutrition? How can we measure meditation? How can we measure exercise? What about all three? So now that we brought all three, one thing that we would have here if we were in a research like the one we've done, one of the ones at MD Anderson's, we would have a health psychologist to see what are the barriers for you not to do what you know is good for you. And so that's part of the next. And I think anxiety is one of the big barriers that doesn't let us really connect. So again, calming, eating well, exercising well, connecting, and bringing rainbows to your life.
Yeah, bring rainbows to your life. I'm gonna write that down. I couldn't agree more. Some of the numbers that we use to measure health can have negative associations, or maybe I saw somebody put in the chat box of it seems like the only one that's important is weight, and some of the numbers, I am one of those, like I just don't get on the scale anymore because that's a number that actually causes me anxiety. So I have other ways that can measure body fat and muscle mass that are useful to me but aren't quite as triggering, because they can certain numbers can produce a bit of specific anxiety. Beautiful.
Let me say one thing, because I think this is really important, this question. Being disabled and unable to exercise at lots of barriers. There's other ways also. Let's, find different ways, and not just, a lot of times we hear so much about exercise, and I totally agree if you can, but if you can't, find other ways that also you can do things for your health.
Absolutely. I cannot thank my other panelists enough. We have Ginger, nutritionist extraordinaire, and we have Dr. Ale, who is runner-up to the happiest man in the world. Don't forget our sneaky guest who came in, Angel and Shelly, and then we had Zoe, who after that video, we got a downpour in Central Park. And of course, we really want to thank Walgreens for their support with this event. You'll also be getting a survey at the end. We hope that you learned something. There was a lot of content tonight. And even before we started this event, we know that the audience here has a really good grasp on their numbers and how important they are and why they're important. But we're pretty sure that you learned a few things if you stayed with us. There was a lot of content. So please tell us in that post-event survey what you did learn and what you would like to learn next. Next month, I believe, TBD, we have another lifestyle event, more on that soon. Thank you for coming. Thank you again to our panelists and the small army of people behind the scenes that you didn't see tonight. It was wonderful spending the evening with you, and I'm very grateful. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful night. Pick a good number, do a squat, do some lassoing, read a label. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.